He thought she was stealing leftover food, so he followed her. But what he saw that night didn't just break his heart. It shattered his entire world. She wasn't a thief. She was a forgotten daughter, a broken mother, a silent warrior, carrying scars that no one ever asked about. And for the first time in his wealthy, empty life, the old millionaire fell to his knees and cried, not out of guilt, but out of respect. If you're just tuning in, welcome to our channel. Please hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us where you're watching from. Mr. Whale was a man whose shoes never touched dust. The kind of man who sipped tea with his pinky raised and spoke like every word cost money. He was the founder of Whale Tech Industries, the owner of 4 estates, 7 cars, and 1 broken heart. But something about this Tuesday afternoon felt different. He sat in his giant mansion, flipping through a newspaper he wasn't reading, his eyes darting occasionally to the hallway. He was waiting, not for a client, not for a deal, but for her, Miriam, his maid. She walked in at exactly 4:02 p.m., wearing the same brown slippers and blue checkered wrapper she wore every day. She carried a small handbag that had seen better days, and her eyes were fixed to the ground, as if the floor owed her money. "Good evening, sir," she said softly, almost like her voice was too tired to come out. Mr. Whale didn't reply. Not immediately. He watched her, his eyes squinting behind gold-rimmed glasses. "Evening, Miriam. You're done for the day?" "Yes, sir. I just finished sweeping the guest rooms. I'll take my leave now." She curtsied gently and turned, but Whale's eyes followed her all the way out of the house. What was it about that girl? She barely spoke. She never smiled, but every time she moved, it was like she was carrying secrets in her wrapper. For weeks now, Mr. Whale had been noticing things, small, strange things. Miriam would work quietly all day, barely speaking unless spoken to. She never took lunch. She never picked phone calls. And at exactly 4 p.m., she would vanish like smoke. But that day, that strange Tuesday, something inside him refused to let it slide. Maybe it was boredom. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe fate had decided that today was the day he'd follow her. He waited 5 minutes, then got into his black-tinted SUV, told his driver to stay back, and drove himself for the first time in 3 years. Miriam was walking fast, not scared, just determined, like she had exactly 100 seconds to escape a ticking bomb. She turned left, then right, crossed a busy road without flinching, walked into a muddy path that led away from the estate, and into the part of town Whale hadn't seen in 20 years. The air changed. The smell of perfume and freshly cut grass turned into burnt Acra, diesel fumes, and sweaty arguments over bus fare. Still, she walked, past rusted shops, past children playing football barefoot, past a drunk man singing to his bottle like it was his wife. Finally, she stopped in front of a gate that looked like it had survived a war. She knocked once, then again. "Who is there?" A tired voice called from inside. "It's me, Miriam." The gate creaked open slowly. Whale parked his car at a safe distance, his heart beating like a guilty schoolboy. From his window, he saw Miriam disappear inside. He waited 10 minutes, 20, 30. Then he stepped out and approached the gate. There was no bell, no intercom, just a door that creaked louder than it opened. He knocked. A small boy answered, no older than 7, shirtless, covered in sand. "Yes?" the boy asked boldly, chewing something bitter. I'm looking for Miriam." The boy didn't answer, just turned and screamed, "Auntie, one man is looking for you, oh." From inside, Miriam appeared. But this time she wasn't wearing her wrapper. She was wearing something Whale had never seen before, a white nurse's gown. Her hair was tucked neatly under a scarf. Her eyes were tired but kind. She looked different, like she belonged to a different time. "Sir," she asked, shocked, "what are you doing here?" Whale took a step back. I was driving by. He paused. The lie was too obvious. Miriam didn't ask questions. She looked behind him, then waved him in. "Come in, sir. You've come this far." The moment he stepped in, the smell hit him, dead old beans, and something else, grief. The compound was small. Broken furniture, cracked walls, 2 rooms. But what shook Whale wasn't the poverty. It was the people. Inside the first room, a woman lay on the floor, shivering under a thin blanket. She was hooked to a local drip hanging from a rusted nail. Miriam walked over and touched her forehead. She has a fever again. Who is that? Whale whispered. My mother, she replied. She has stage 3 cancer. We can't afford a hospital anymore. She turned and walked to the next room. There, 2 children lay on a mat, fast asleep. One was missing a leg. That's my sister's son. His father abandoned them after the accident. Whale stood frozen. You work all day and then come here to care for them? Miriam nodded, gently washing the woman's hand with warm water. I take jobs not for money, sir, but for survival. Every kobo counts. At that moment, Whale felt smaller than a grain of sand. He had spent his whole life chasing business deals and gossiping about lazy workers. But the woman he had judged, the one he barely looked at, was carrying 3 generations on her back without making noise. Whale walked out of the house in silence. He didn't speak. He didn't drive fast. He didn't turn on the radio. He just drove. That night, he lay in his giant mansion bed, but couldn't sleep. Miriam's face, that woman's drip, the little boy's missing leg. They all followed him like shadows. The next morning at the mansion, Miriam walked in as usual, wrapper tied, eyes low, voice soft. Good morning, sir. Whale looked up from his tea, nodded slowly, and said, Good morning, Miriam. He didn't mention yesterday, and she didn't ask if he followed her. Both of them pretended like life was normal, but deep down, it wasn't. That's the thing about some truths. Once they enter your chest, they refuse to leave. Whale couldn't stop thinking about her mother's shaking hands, or that missing leg, or the strength Miriam carried like a quiet warrior. So that day he made a decision. He walked into his study, picked up his phone, and made 3 calls. Telephone receiver call 1. Good morning, Dr. Yusuf. I need you to do a private home consultation. No hospital noise. Quietly. Today. Telephone receiver call 2. Hello, Sola? Can your prosthetics team visit a location in the mainland? Yes, child-size leg, lightweight, durable. I'll double your fee. Telephone receiver call 3. Ngozi, send food supplies to this address discreetly. Make it look like a donation from a church. And add diapers, painkillers, and school bags. He didn't want to embarrass her. He didn't want her pride to burn. So he gave like a secret angel hiding behind shadows. For the next week, Miriam arrived at work on time. Quiet as always, but there was a glow in her eyes now. A faint one. A hopeful one. She never spoke of it, but he noticed. One Friday evening, Whale's cousin, Chief Remy, barged into the mansion like he owned it. Uncle, you said you'd sign the land papers this week. Why are you delaying again? He shouted. Whale calmly looked up. Because I'm still thinking. Remy scoffed. Thinking? Or listening to that girl in the wrapper who now controls your heart? Whale froze. What did you say? Remy smirked. Everyone knows. Uncle, you've been following your housemaid. Then food, then doctors and prosthetics? Don't let love of jazz carry you away, oh. Whale stood up slowly. Leave. My house. Now. But the whispers had already begun. Relatives. They never care when you bleed. But let them smell love. They come like vultures. In less than a week, rumors had spread like wildfire. Miriam is using charm. She wants to inherit the mansion. She will soon carry Belle and trap him. And Miriam? She didn't know any of it yet. It was Sunday afternoon when one of the younger house staff, Nkechi, passed a cruel comment. I wish I knew which juju you use on Olga. I would have borrowed some for my own man. Miriam blinked. What did you say? Nkechi laughed. Oh, please. Don't act innocent. You don't know people are talking. Talking about what? About how you're controlling Ogawale. Don't worry. Enjoy it while it lasts. Miriam's hands trembled as she cleaned the floor. That night, she couldn't sleep, so she waited for morning. Sir, she said softly, standing by the dining table with an envelope. Whale looked up. Yes. I want to thank you for everything you've done, but I'll no longer be working here. I need to go. Whale stood up fast. What? Why? I didn't come here to cause problems, sir. I just came to work, earn small money, and take care of my family. Miriam, I never beg for help, and I'm not looking for love. Please let me go. Whale's throat dried. His voice failed him. She turned and walked out. And just like that, the house returned to silence. But not peace, just silence. He tried replacing her. Hired 2 new maids. They were loud, lazy, and rude. He tried focusing on business. But every file reminded him of her voice. He even tried prayer. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw her. That poor girl who had asked for nothing and yet had given him everything. Gratitude, silence, dignity. 1 week has passed. Then 2. In the 3rd week, something broke. One of Whale's guards rushed in. Sir, someone is at the gate, crying it's a boy. Whale stepped out, heart racing. It was the same little boy from Miriam's compound. His eyes were red. His leg was bruised. Uncle, Auntie Miriam told me if anything ever happened to come to you. What happened? Where is she? The boy sniffled. She fainted. She's not waking up. Blood came from her mouth. I don't know what to do. Whale didn't wait. He grabbed his car keys, heart in his throat. As he raced into the night, one question burned in his mind. Am I too late? Whale drove like a man possessed. Red lights? He didn't stop. Horn blasts? He didn't hear. All he saw in his mind was Miriam's face, pale, shaking, covered in blood. He reached the compound in 18 minutes. It usually took 40. The boy opened the gate, panting. This way, sir. Inside, Miriam lay unconscious on a mattress on the floor, her body jerking lightly, her lips pale as paper. Whale knelt beside her, lifted her head, and yelled, Call Dr. Yusuf, now! Within 10 minutes, Dr. Yusuf arrived. He checked her pulse, examined her eyes, and asked calmly, How long has she been vomiting blood? The boy shrugged. Since yesterday. But today it was worse. The doctor stood up slowly. Sir, I need to be honest. She's been hiding something serious. This is internal organ failure, most likely caused by untreated ulcer, infection, and stress combined. She needs hospitalization. Now. Whale carried her with his own arms. No driver. No nurse. He placed her in the back seat and whispered, Just stay with me, please. The hospital doors burst open like a movie scene. Nurses rushed in. For drips hung. Oxygen masks came out. He wasn't allowed in, so he sat outside, waiting, remembering. This was the same woman who never asked for a raise. The same woman who scrubbed floors and still said, Thank you. The same woman who was called a witch by those 2 blind to see her wings. And now she lay between life and death, because nobody had cared enough to ask, Are you okay? Hours later, Dr. Yusuf returned with a chart. Sir, we managed to stabilize her, but we ran tests, something came up. Whale stood. What is it? She was poisoned. Whale's eyes widened. What? Yes, slow poison. Something slipped into her food or water in small doses over time. The body breaks down slowly until it crashes. Whale's voice cracked. You mean someone did this on purpose? The doctor nodded grimly. Whale didn't speak. But inside, a storm began to rise. Whale quietly hired an investigator, pulled CCTV from the compound, checked who visited, who dropped food, who spoke to whom, and then the truth slapped him harder than he'd ever been hit. The person who had poisoned Miriam was Nkechi, the same house staff who mocked her. Why? She had been paid. By Remy, Whale's own nephew. Jealous of the attention Miriam was getting. Afraid she'd inherit the fortune. The proof was on tape. Messages, voice notes, even receipts of mobile transfers. Whale called a family meeting. The entire sitting room filled up. Remy arrived late, chewing gum like a fool. Whale stood up. I want to thank you all for your recent concern about my personal life. Very touching. Everyone chuckled awkwardly. Remy, Whale said sharply, I have evidence that you paid one of my staff to poison Miriam, a girl who's never harmed anyone. Remy froze. What? Me? Poison, cool. Whale slammed a file on the table. Here are the recordings, the receipts, the voice notes. Play stupid, and I'll play these in court. The room went silent. Then Whale shouted, Get out! No one argued. Weeks passed. Miriam survived. But she was weak, thinner, and quieter than before. She sat in a wheelchair outside the hospital when Whale visited with flowers. He knelt beside her. I don't know if I deserve forgiveness, but I came to ask anyway. She looked at him gently. You saved me. That's all I'll ever remember. He sighed. I lost so much time trying to protect you from the world when I should have been protecting you with the truth. She smiled. Then tell the truth. Weeks later, Miriam returned home, but not to her old compound. Whale had bought her a small, fully furnished flat, quiet, clean, and close to the hospital. But one morning, she woke up and saw a note at her door, handwritten, signed, If you ever get tired of being strong alone, I still want to be the man who walks beside you, not behind you. Whale. She folded the paper and smiled. The next evening, she walked into the mansion. Same wrapper, same slippers, but this time with peace in her chest. Whale met her at the door. You came back, he whispered. I never left, she said softly.